Well, Kayla Clark is on a month-long break from breaking records. So let's talk about somebody else breaking records. Kamala Harris and her run for the presidency. Well, as you've heard, Joe Biden has removed himself from the campaign and is no longer seeking re-election. I mean, but damn, with the performance he turned in at the debate, I'm surprised he lasted as long as he did. But the powers that be came together and discussed it and came to the conclusion, we can't win with OG. Now, the problem they faced when they came to that conclusion is who do you replace him with? Now, the reason that was even a problem is because none of them thought that Kamala Harris could take the baton and finish the race, let alone win it. Now, once Joe Biden came out and said that he was no longer seeking re-election, then subsequently endorsed Kamala Harris, the next 24 hours will go down in history as a cultural phenomenon. Kamala Harris set a new presidential campaign fundraising record by raising $81 million in the first 24 hours. Now, the person that nobody thought had a chance ended up raising $81 million. Now, these donations came from like 800,000 grassroots donors, 600,000 brand new first-time donors, and on top of that, another 150 million came in from the Political Action Committee. So when it was all said and done, she raised close to $250 million in 24 hours. And the donations keep coming. And that is, by definition, a cultural phenomenon. Now, as all of this was going on, the party bigwigs didn't automatically endorse her right away. So as the fundraising numbers came in, it started to make people feel more comfortable about the chances of winning. So therefore, the endorsements started to trickle in. But as you know, this is politics. And politicians take advantage of every situation, including this one. So the higher the position in the party, the longer it took to endorse, eventually culminating in endorsement by Barack Hussein Obama. I mean, that's what the Republicans call him. His mama named him Clay, I'm gonna call him Clay. Now, despite the overwhelming groundswell of support, there are still people holding out. Who are these people, you might ask? Black men and black women. Now, I saw a few videos by a few different black YouTubers, a couple men, a couple women, and they weren't exactly happy about her tough on crime stats as it pertained to the black community in Northern California. Now, part of the dissatisfaction with these YouTubers and Kamala Harris is that she reportedly locked up 1,600 black and brown individuals for weed crimes when she admittedly smoked weed in college and laughed about it. Now, to me, it's not that big of a deal because unless she was running around here planting evidence, you kind of have to get caught with weed to get arrested for weed. And then to expect her to not prosecute weed cases because in college at some point she smoked weed? I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, because even in California, weed was illegal. And you get arrested and prosecuted for things you do illegal. One of the other dissatisfactions is that Kamala Harris did not openly support reparations. That is absolutely ridiculous for a multitude of reasons. I mean, for one, if you run around and say she ain't black enough, she ain't black, she Jamaican, she Indian, but then want her to support reparations for you, I mean, how goofy is that? You clearly don't understand how politics works. Do you understand that anybody that's offering reparations to black people is going to pay a political cost? So you want her to risk her political career for people that don't even think she's black? That's insane. Now, I'm not saying that Kamala Harris doesn't have the issues, because she has some more serious ones, and we're going to get to those in a minute. Now, although I think these are minor issues, I think the reason that people didn't think that she had a chance to win was how she handled these issues in her 2020 presidential campaign.
I want to bring in Congresswoman Gabbard. Congresswoman Gabbard, you took issue with Senator Harris.
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. She put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana.
They say you oppose legalizing weed.
That's not true.
I know.
and look, I joke about it, half joking. Half my family's from Jamaica. Are you kidding me?
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
Okay. Like in
and
college,
I inhale. I did inhale.
Okay.
It was a long time ago. But yes.
I know you have to go. They say you have to go. I just
broke news.
I mean, was it in college?
I mean, that's kind of a stretch. I mean, because, yeah, she smoked weed in college, but what is she supposed to do? Not prosecute weed offenses because she smoked in college? She's not the only one.
I know a lot of weed smokers.
You know, I'm not big into marijuana. I've smoked it twice in my life when I was very young, and the results for me was I did a lot of coughing.
I made bad choices. I got high without always thinking about the harm that it could do.
Well, you know, like most Americans over the last 10 years, people's opinion on this issue have evolved.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it, and didn't inhale, and never tried it again.
So 40 years ago, I smoked marijuana, and I admit it. I'm sure that other people might have done it and may not want to say it in front of 25 million people. My mom's not happy that I just did.
She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response?
I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work.
I mean, in the interest of time, that was a condensed version of a nonsensical type answer. She didn't address anything. But Tulsi Gabbard came back and had a rebuttal.
I want to bring Congresswoman Gabbard back in. Your response,
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you were in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who were on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Senator Harris.
My entire career, I have been personally opposed to the death penalty, and that has never changed. And I dare anybody who is in a position to make that decision, to face the people I have faced, to say, I will not seek the death penalty.
Again, I had to cut that short because she went on and on, didn't really handle it well, didn't answer the question or anything of that. We're not going to listen to that. But the point is, she did not handle that well at all, to the point where not long after that, she dropped out of the race. And if she wants to win in 2024, she's going to have to fix that, because I guarantee you the Republicans got that tape and they're going to try to get Donald Trump to do the same thing. Whether or not he does it as well as Tulsi Gabbard, who knows, but they're going to come after her. And that's the mild stuff.
We're joined now by Lara Bazelon, a professor at the University of San Francisco School of Law. In January, she wrote a widely read article in the New York Times titled, "Kamala Harris was not a progressive prosecutor." Bazelon wrote, quote, "Time after time when progressives urged her to embrace criminal justice reforms as a district attorney and then the state's attorney general, Ms. Harris opposed them or stayed silent. Most troubling, Ms. Harris fought tooth and nail to uphold wrongful convictions that had been secured through official misconduct that included evidence tampering, false testimony, and the suppression of crucial information by prosecutors."
Lara Bazelon joins us now from San Francisco. Thank you for joining us, Professor Bazelon. Can you start off by going through Senator Harris's record, starting with her being DA of San Francisco?
Sure. So she was elected in 2004, and she took a pretty courageous stance initially in that she didn't seek the death penalty against a man who had been accused of murdering a police officer, and she did get a lot of blowback from that. Subsequently, she moved much more towards the center in many of her positions, and two things happened in her tenure as DA that I think are worth mentioning. One is that there was a big crime lab scandal whereby there was a lab technician who was using the drugs rather than testing them. And as a result, many, many convictions became tainted. And it turned out that her office had known for months, top attorneys had, and had not disclosed that information to the defense. And when a judge found out, she became quite incensed and wrote an opinion castigating Harris for allowing this to happen. Harris's reaction to that was to try to get the judge disqualified by saying that she had a conflict of interest because her husband was a defense lawyer. That failed, and 600 cases were thrown out. The second piece of her tenure that I think is important that not a lot of people know about is a case involving a man named Jamal Truelove. That case was tried by Linda Allen, who was one of Harris's deputies. And the case against Truelove turned on one eyewitness. It was a one eyewitness identification case. He was convicted and sentenced to 50 years to life. And the Court of Appeals threw out that conviction, castigating what Allen had done as gross and egregious prosecutorial misconduct. They said that her closing argument was a yarn made out of whole cloth. Recently, True Love sued the city of the city of San Francisco, and won a $13.1 million judgment.
When I put in my appeal, the people that's fighting against my appeal to keep the conviction is the Attorney General office. I learned it reading, their reply to my appeal, and you see Kamala Harris' name at the bottom. And now it's starting to feel a little personal.
When you win the $13.1 million, it's a massive settlement. Did you feel like that was enough?
There's not an amount that can get back those 7 years. That was 6.5 years that I spent in prison. But instead of me coming home feeling like I was a victim, I wanted to prove that I'm a survivor.
Look, I told you it was bad. Look, Kamala Harris gonna have to pull her team together and discuss it and figure out the right answer. It's not looking good. I mean, you got a dude with $13 million lawsuit. That's not good. So you have to clean it up some kind of way. But that being said, I would much rather vote for Kamala Harris than Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is a crook, a fraud, and he needs to be in jail.